What's up, family, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you are all having a wonderful, productive, and progressive day. I'm coming off the high of an incredible weekend. Of course, I always kind of take a break on the first Mondays because first weekends are incredibly busy for us now. Of course, we have our Sunday sessions every Sunday, but then we also have the ex-pastor call-in show on the on those Sunday evenings for the first Sundays. And then now we also have a community development series that's going on Saturday afternoons, where I'm working with some of the people who are taking on more responsibility or interested in taking on more responsibility in this vision of building, or this mission rather, of building community beyond superstition. And then on Saturday nights, we have game night. So first weekend is incredibly busy for me. So I always kind of take a break on that Monday to get some type of refocus. And honestly, it's not that much of a break. The only thing that I'm not doing on that Monday is content creation. That's the only thing that I'm not doing. Everything else I'm doing. I still got to go to work, and and I still have to plan things. Like, there's literally a lot to do. Of course, we're looking at being in Raleigh in April 19th and April 20th. For a Bridge City Weekends meetup. If you're in the Raleigh area and you're interested in getting connected with what we're doing, if you're interested in participating, if you're interested in helping us put this event together, please let us know in the comments. And by the way, even if you're not in Raleigh, just let us know where you're watching from. That's how we ended up choosing Raleigh, Detroit, Chicago, Portland, LA, and San Francisco for this year. Primarily because of the people who let us know where they're watching from, and we're keeping tabs on it. We're keeping tabs on it with our map, and kind of just showing people like, oh yeah, this is where we are. We got people here. And so when we look at that, we say, okay, this is a place where we can go and start intentionally building some communities. So this year we're kind of taking it on tour, if you will, to continue to build this experience. It's been one hell of a journey. Ultimately, the work we've been doing as Bridge City is not even a year old yet, and we're already all across the globe. So this is beautiful, man. I'm excited. All right, so listen, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Consider joining, supporting, or connecting with this community, channel, or content in any way that makes sense for you. And share this video with somebody, because you never know when it's going to make a difference. You never know if this might be the seed that does whatever the fuck else. And last but not least, consider checking out our long line of products. We have books, we have merchandise, we have hoodies. Man, I actually ordered me a hoodie, or my wife ordered me a hoodie like 2 weeks before Christmas, and it just turns out it's not going to get here until like next week or so. And I don't know, for some reason it takes longer when we order our own stuff. That is very weird to me. But anyway, are y'all ready for this conversation? It's going to be an interesting one. So I've had this thought on my mind, and I'm probably going to do this particular topic several times in a video, not back to back, but several times, because there's so much that I want to say about this topic, and the way, um, I guess the best way to say it, the proselytizing of the poor, you know, the proselytizing of vulnerable societies. In many communities, churches feel a vital gap in social services by offering programs that address homelessness, substance abuse, foster care, and other pressing needs. These faith-based initiatives can bring relief, very real relief, to some of our most vulnerable neighbors by providing shelter, food, mentorship, and hope. Yet, an uncomfortable truth underlies many of these church-sponsored programs. Spiritual services often become inseparable from material aid. While not all churches engage in this practice, most do. A significant number of churches require or heavily pressure their participants to make religious commitments as a prerequisite for help. This conflation of assistance with proselytizing deserves scrutiny, especially when it targets people who are already struggling to survive. This has been on my mind for a very long time, in part because this is pretty much some of the work that I used to do. And so I've worked with a lot of organizations. Community outreach has always kind of been my thing. Community resourcing has kind of been my thing. When I deconverted, my focus shifted from community outreach to community development. So that's kind of the work that I'm more interested in now. Still outreach, but that's why I was like, in order to do more outreach, we have to be developed as communities. So that's where I see the work being done. But no, I've worked with several organizations who absolutely have different types of stipulations on people who are just coming from help, who are just coming for help. And so in these cases, this charity, if you will, comes with conditions. And in many cases, we look at these conditions as minute, because it's like, well, they're doing a nice thing, but we only think that because we're all giving the superstition credence. This is why I do the work that I do with highlighting that even the things that people claim to be good in this book, when objectively viewed, they're not good. When you objectively view the character of Jesus, he's not a good guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see how they get it. But so what we don't often pay attention to is that from orphans and foster programs to at-risk teen interventions, homeless shelters to substance abuse and after-school programs, faith-based organizations are at the front lines of care. And many of these initiatives come with strings attached. Participants are often required to give their life to or acknowledge a higher power. This is very common language for people who have to go through substance abuse programs that are often faith-based and require that person to say, in their minds, because there's so much pseudo professionalism in these spaces, in their minds, if you don't have a higher power, you're not capable of getting better. And so there are many of those programs that if you're a non-believer and you're suffering with and you're dealing with substance abuse or substance addiction, you know what I'm saying? You're going to get further ostracized in those places, you know. And even though you're the only person there who's a non-believer that's an addict, everybody else are believers and addicts. They're going to reinforce upon you that the reason you're an addict is because you don't believe in a higher power. Because that's how pseudo professionalism works. That's how pseudo intellect works. It doesn't have to make sense for it to make sense. Because people go, oh, that makes sense to me. And I'm like, you stupid motherfucker. That don't make no damn sense. You know? But so many of these initiatives come with these types of strings. Give their lives to a higher power. Acknowledge themselves as sinners. You know? You're a sinner, fall from. Now, mind you, when these people, because ultimately it's like the Ray Comfortless model, right? When these people are coming for help, you don't know them. You don't know if they're a sinner or not. You know what I'm saying? But that is the common assumption. It's going to always be the default assumption. Everybody's a sinner. But for you, your particular sins are the reason you're in this predicament. And if you give your life to Jesus and you pray the prayer of salvation, then my Lord is going to change your life. And let's make that make sense. My imaginary friend is going to change your life. Like that's the shit we're doing, you know. Many times, these institutions will require them to confess their sins, and that's often a slippery slope. This is why uh, years ago, I started advising people to stop going to pastors for counseling. You know what I'm saying? Um, and it wasn't just like because pastors don't know what the fuck they're talking about, which that's a major part. That is definitely a major part because pastors learn by revelation, not by exploration, which means these motherfuckers don't study shit. They just feel something and think that's the truth. That's how that shit goes in the charismatic church, right? Charismatic branches. But I started encouraging people like, hey, don't go to a pastor for counseling, especially for personal issues. You need to go to a real therapist, and that's for your protection and the pastor's protection. You know, he's not equipped or she's not equipped, or however your church works. They're not equipped with for your trauma. You know, and you're likely not equipped for their trauma. And so, what often happens in a lot of church scandals start off as counseling sessions. hmm That's how that goes. That's how that goes. Um, but yeah, don't play with your mind like that. Like literally take it to qualify, folk. This is how you get keep yourself out of trouble. But yeah, confessing their sins, and again, and that's why I say that's a slippery slope. Because I mean, imagine you're a young pastor, and someone comes in there confessing their sins, and their sins is stuff that you secretly want to do too. You know, tension starts building up in the room, and then you got yourself a steamy novel situation right there. Pastor about to clap them cheeks. You know what I'm saying? You know, just saying. You don't got to put yourself in situations like that. You know, you ain't got to do it. I mean, unless you want to. And that's I ain't against nobody clapping nobody's cheeks. If you want to be out there clapping cheeks, clap away. If you're happy and you know it, clap them cheeks. Hallelujah. All right, so I'm back. I'm back. I don't know why I took that rabbit trail, but I mean, clapping cheeks is a fun thing. I mean, like the phrase, the activity too, but the phrase, you know. Anyway, forsake their own ideologies is another thing that people will often be required to do. You know, because the goal of this is proselytization. The goal of this is to convert you. That's the goal. The goal isn't to feed you. The goal isn't to give you shelter. The shelter is a means to an end. You know what I'm saying? The foster care is a means to an end. You know, and if you don't believe me, I dare you to go check out the statistics about and they exist about what people who are non-believers go through when they have to go through faith-based systems, whether it be foster care, whether it be at-risk detention centers, whether it be a substance abuse program. Like these are the things that we have to pay attention to, and to be quite frankly, these things don't just impact non-believers. I promise you, there's a healthy percentage of believers who are just as uncomfortable with this type of proselytization as well. You know, but if nobody's calling it out, then people think it's something that has to be. You know, and then another one is for attend their church service. You know, there's plenty of places that like you can't get nothing unless you sit through the service. You got to sit through the whole service in order to get something. You know, and the hope is that Jesus, my imaginary friend, is going to touch your heart somehow. You know, or that you're going to be convinced by all the rest of us pretending that he's touching our hearts. That's the hope. The hope. You know, um, just the hope. And my problem with that is actually just the shallow nature of that. You know, I actually don't have a problem with people out trying to recruit people to their side. That'd be bad sportsmanship of me for me to have that problem. So that's not the problem. My problem is that you're pretending to help without even understanding how to help. You know what I'm saying? And that's not me being disingenuous. This was one of the reasons I stepped away because I realized my church was doing these fantastic giveaways. Oh man, we were killing it. We were the hood church. People loved Kingdom Central. They just knew Kingdom Central gonna be giving out money, player. They give out gas cards. They do things on New Year's. They feed everybody, bruh. They just knew. And it made me feel good. Yes. Yes, we that church. Yes, it made me feel real good. Until I realized all of this shit is tokenism. Just make people feel good for a day. This is like finding a golden ticket in a Willy Wonka chocolate bar, but there being no fucking chocolate factory to go to. You know what I'm saying? It's a placebo at that moment. I'm because of the hype And as you know, I'm kind of charismatic, so I'm going to hype the fuck out of shit. But because of the hype, everybody feels like we were doing more than we really were. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember having this epiphany. It was after we had did this huge gas giveaway that shut the city down, traffic, bam, and this, whew. And then I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I'm like, these people were desperate to get some gas money, and this gas money is only gonna last them for like a few days. You know, some only a day. They're gonna need gas tomorrow, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. And that's when I started realizing, like, for me, I was like, oh, bruh, you weren't actually trying to solve a problem. That was the discomfort I was sitting in at that moment. You know, kind of trying to reconcile the dissonance, if you will. That, no, what I was doing was trying to show people that we were here to help, but not actually thinking about what would actually help. And so the thing that we chose to do was the more shallow thing, the thing that was shallow but sensational. And so it brought more attention to the church, but did very little to actually change anybody's life. Now, sure, those people, they're going to be forever grateful. They still talk about it, man. You remember that? I wish Kingdom Central was still here. But I don't find a flex in that. I know there's some people that's their flex. That's not a flex for me. That's not a flex for me. I don't want to brag about placebos. I'm sorry. That's just not me. That's why I don't really fuck with the Mind Valley crew. Like, I love meditation and stuff, but they a little too woo. And then they'd be like, yeah, we sell placebos on purpose. And I'm like, what the fuck? That just sounds, did he just literally just say I'm a scam artist? Because that's what that sounds like. Yeah, we sold these. They're 100% placebo. And we sold them for like $400 a piece. What the fuck? I was blown away. But the people in the room sat there and was just like, oh yeah, cool. And I don't know, maybe that's my neurospicy. Maybe I missed something in that. But to me, that's just like, nah, I'll pass. All right. So the big point here is that our vulnerable populations are at, this is what they're having to deal with when they need help, outside of governmental intervention. And just to be honest, governmental intervention in this country, other than the benefits themselves, the experience is completely dehumanizing for most folks. You know, man, like that's I don't like I don't like having to do anything with a government run organization because the bureaucracy is just way too much for me. You know, which is why I like when private organizations actually do some shit, or public organizations rather actually do some shit. You know, to this day, churches build better community centers than cities do. You know what I'm saying? Because there's less bureaucracy. It's just the truth. That's a truism. That's a truism. I don't know if it is or not, but I love using that word. It's a truism. All right. So for someone who's cold, hungry, or battling addiction, these mandates can be extremely coercive. You know, the desperate need for shelter or a hot meal may overshadow personal autonomy, causing people to acquiesce to demands they might not genuinely support. When a meal comes at the cost of public self-abasement, or when addiction counseling requires renouncing one's own private philosophies, assistance starts to resemble spiritual gatekeeping rather than a benevolent offering of help. And I think that's something that we really need to understand. And that can be the profound difference between faith-based initiatives and fucking people-based initiatives. All right? Like, that's what we should be doing. There and we need to hear that loud and clear. For them, it is faith-based, which means they're doing this because of their faith. They are detached from the people. You know what I'm saying? Detached. But the secular community has the opportunity to promote, to platform. I need another P word. Promote, platform, and produce people-based initiatives. You know, that's where we need to be. Because what they're doing for the purpose of their faith, which means the number one goal is for somebody to say this prayer. You know, they don't actually measure the success of their programs by recidivism rates. They do not measure the success of their programs by how many people uh, lives have improved. They do not measure the success of their programs by who got a better job, who got a better opportunity, who finally got housing, who is no longer having to live on the streets. That's not what they measure this shit by. They measure it by how many souls got saved, regardless of how many lives got harmed. You know? Now, again, I'm not saying that to beat up on them, because at least they're doing something. You know? I think so much, and y'all know I've said it, so if you're mad at me for saying it, I'm saying it again. So much of the focus in the secular community seems to be on goals that are way bigger than individuals. And I'm like, and that's why we have Bridge City and the Bridge, because somebody has to be focused on individuals. Somebody has to be focused on communities, right? I get it. We got to change laws and shit like that. But you know, the easiest way to change laws is for people to change. And the easiest way for people to change is for there to be conversations around community that they can be a part of and get exposed to new information. You know, anything outside of that is manipulation. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Another, concern here, and I'm sorry, my phone keeps going off. I can't cut it off right now. But many of these churches and these associations impose very strict disciplinary frameworks as a part of their interpretation of the Bible, using tactics that can be psychologically distressing and punitive. This rigidity can manifest in punishment for questioning teachings, segregation or expulsion for noncompliance, and mandatory scripture readings or prayer sessions. But this is stuff that people don't think about. Like if the majority of the programs are, if the majority of the programs are absolutely are Christian and faith based, especially the ones that are impacting children, then these are people who believe that the Bible is the best way to raise a child. And so you better believe that in these programs, in many cases, they're going to have forms of corporal punishment. You know, Like, you know, and so I'm say to the secular community, how long are we going to sit on the sideline? Like, at what point do we get off the sideline and say we got to organize ourselves? We got to organize. Well, there's more of them. So the fuck what? Like, damn, y'all need to study fucking history sometimes. Like, I promise you, man, like, to be a part of a community with with so many intelligent folk, I swear I hear a lot of stupid excuses. And I mean that. Like, no, it's an excuse. To me, until we're actually doing something to solve these problems, it's an excuse. This is why, like, I don't get in, forgive me, I don't get in y'all gossiping conversations. That's because there's a lot of the secular community seems to be now, just gossiping, talking about shit that you don't have any power to do anything about, and you're not even trying to get any power to do anything about. You just got emotions and want to talk about the shit. That's a fucking tantrum. I'm not interested in tantrums. I have 4 children. They don't throw tantrums. I'm not interested in tantrums. You know. So for individuals who are already navigating complex life circumstances, homelessness, trauma, addiction, these invasive measures can compound the emotional toil and deepen a sense of shame. Our most vulnerable community members deserve help without the added burden of coercive religious directives. In many respects, these tactics mirror the high pressure sales environment of timeshare marketers, right? Desperate clients are pressed to make a decision they might not have made unless under dire circumstances. You know, that's what I feel like. Hey, we're going to give you this food, but you got to go through this presentation where you accept Jesus at the end, you know? And sometimes they'll still let you go, even if you don't accept Jesus, but you got to go through a lot of folk to get out of there. It's like you got to go through different bosses. If you didn't accept Jesus the first one, then we got the second boss, you know? If you come out of there with the food and you didn't accept Jesus, you a G. You a real one. You the MVP player. You deserve your awards. You know. And there are some who are like that. I've dealt with plenty of them like that. I've had to, when I was working for one organization, like I've had to like counsel my staff, like, hey, leave those people the fuck alone. We're just trying to feed them. That's it. But our process, I don't give a fuck what the process says. These are people and they're hungry. Like, damn, why? Like, no. But that's not just an issue with believers. That's an issue with people anywhere. This is how you get. This is how you get like grave travesties because people will do whatever the fuck they're told to do. That's the scariest thing to me. You know what I'm saying? People will do whatever the fuck they're told to do. If someone makes a law tomorrow, it could be as inhumane as fuck. People will follow that fucking law and will turn in anybody who does not follow that law. This is how you get a ma'afa. This is how you get a Holocaust. This is how you get genocide. Because people will do whatever the fuck they're told. This is why I am incredibly averse to being anybody's teacher. So every time somebody say, oh, show me where this is, find it your fucking self, man. Stop being so damn lazy. Damn it. You know, because that's the problem. We have way too many people who are way too comfortable just accepting orders. Well, that's what they said the right thing to do is. Fuck you. Figure this shit out. Don't take anybody else's word for that. You know, this is how you get the situations that we're in. This is how you get a crowd of people watching a man being choked to death, and the only thing they could think to do was to take out a fucking phone and record it. Because somebody said, stand back. And people will do whatever the fuck they're told to do. You know? Ensuring that people can access assistance without religious strings is a matter of respecting personal dignity and human rights. When any form of public or community service is tied to ideological conversion, we risk eroding the foundational principles of equitable care. Shelter, food, counseling, and support must be distributed based on need, not on one's willingness to profess a particular creed. Moreover, this pattern of religiously conditional aid can deepen social divides. A person who doesn't want to engage in religious practices or who holds beliefs that are at odds with the sponsoring church may find themselves excluded from critical services. This dynamic can also reinforce prejudices, pitting believers against non-believers, rather than uniting people in a shared goal of community uplift. Now, I do want to highlight, as I said at the beginning of this, that no, not all churches do this. My church was one of those churches that did not do this. But the most of them do. You know, enough of them do to where you don't even have to search very far to find a horror story. And it's not just, I mentioned the public services. You also have to think about many of these churches sponsor things like boys and girls clubs, sports leagues. And these are all things that the secular community can be doing. And again, we don't have to do everything with a big A on it. Hey, we're the atheist basketball league. We don't have to. I mean, I'm not mad if we do, because I righteously don't give a fuck about shit like that. And every time people say, oh, well, let's do it this way to make it more palatable, I'm like, oh, you're setting yourself up to lose every time. And most people that I see doing that, guess what? They're not winning. They're not winning because the problem, they're just doing what the fuck they were told to do. They're not actually paying attention to the outcomes. My lighting isn't perfect. My audio isn't perfect. My background be distracting as fuck. Sometimes I have a fire alarm going off. People complained about it, and I told them to fuck off. I did. You know why? Because I don't exist for anybody else. It's not how that shit works. It's not how that shit works. You can't live vicariously through me. Like, man, fix that. Bruh, just click off the video, homie. I'm the one that got to live with it. But that's the nature of people we're dealing with. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. A lot of work that needs to be done. But we can do it. And I'm here to help. And there's a lot of others out here. I've been having some really good conversations over the past 4 weeks. So I'm very optimistic that we're in good hands moving forward. Because we're going to get out here and we're going to do the work. We're going to do the fucking work. The secular community has both an opportunity and an obligation to step in. And that's what we're doing. Historically, faith-based organizations have stepped into the void left by inadequate public funding and lack of structured community-based responses to poverty, addiction, and homelessness. But the onus is not theirs alone. Secular groups, nonprofits, mutual aid networks, coalitions, and individual volunteers can and should organize to provide comparable or better, that's going to be my aim, services that come without ideological attachments. There are plenty of things we can do, but we have to work together. I think we see ourselves in such small numbers because we don't know better. But that's okay. I'm here now. Now let me stop. But no, it's like we need to connect more. We need to affiliate more. We need to move our online to offline. You know what I'm saying? And I understand. I'll put it this way. I know there are a lot of pitfalls that make people nervous, but fuck that shit, man. Let's make the world a better place. Get busy trying or get busy dying. Those are really the only options, And I prefer to be trying, Well, y'all know my motto: do the work, do it right, do your best, do the most. I'm going to outwork the work every chance I get. So there's several things that we can do. We can create well-funded, well-organized shelters and support programs, secular groups. We can offer refuge where people of all beliefs can, feel safe and respected while being assisted. Obviously, we can partner with existing community organizations. And again, there are some progressive religious organizations out there that put no religious requirement on people who receive their services from them. Those are organizations we can partner with, but then we can also partner with our local food banks. That's another thing. Like if you're building local community in your area, as soon as you have a building, you can partner with the local food bank to be a distributor of food for your place for you to be able to provide food to people. There's certain things like, I guess I'm so passionate about this stuff because there's certain things that the only thing that's stopping us is not organizing. If we would organize, then some of the things we think we couldn't do, we could do, and that would solve a lot of our visibility problems, yeah. But it's just like, I think to everybody who's serious about community development, that's the thing that I'm telling. And I'm saying, and I say this, please don't think I'm saying that we shouldn't be jumping on the big stuff too. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need more people in the field. We need more people in the grassroots. Um, Groups like Freedom from Religion, they absolutely need to keep doing what they're doing. But while they're doing that, we need more groups like Sunday Assembly, Oasis, The Bridge, and everything else. We need as many of them as we can get, because that creates more options for people, and it normalizes secularism, atheism, free thinking, and non-belief in the public context, if you will. And then, of course, secular organizations can offer evidence-based care, which, of course, Recovery from Religion is doing that. But let's get as many as we can. There's a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot. There's room for everybody. Room for everybody. So please don't look at the secular community and say, "Oh no, everything's taken care of. There's no room for me to work." No, there's plenty of work. There is plenty of work. What they say, the harvest is plentiful. The workers are few. That's the reality. Well, and I think, and I'm kind of be biting myself here a little bit too. I think we've all, it seems now everybody who wants to work in the secular community just wants a podcast. And I ain't mad at that, because I'm always looking for new content. So it's very rich to me. I love that. But I do have concerns, not necessarily critiques, just concerns that we're just gonna splinter all over the place, and eventually create a type of fatigue where we've been on everybody's channels, and then now nobody wants to go on anybody's channel anymore, and then everybody's just fighting to protect their own channel after that. Um, and so, yeah. And again, like I said, I'm biting my own stuff in the foot, because hey, here I am right here on YouTube and Spotify. So it's an attractive thing to do. So I'm not saying, and that's why I say it's a concern, not a critique. The concern is that we won't actually do the work of building community. You know, we'll all be so busy trying to build audiences that the work of community won't get done. And that's a real thing. I'm aware of stuff like that because I've seen it happen in churches as well. You know, you end up losing your membership for an audience. You know, that's good stuff. All right. So every human being, regardless of belief or background, deserves equitable treatment when seeking help. You know, um, it's no secret. I grew up very poor. I was homeless for the majority of my childhood. Um, there were some really nice times where I got to live with some aunts and some uncles. Well, just aunts and uncles at times, some cousins. But life was pretty rough. Um, my mother was in and out of prison. My father was off living his best life. Hey, Dad. Uh, and it was rough. But one of the ways we got by is because of institutions like the ones I'm talking about. My mom would go to those places, and her friends had a list of every single one of them. Go to those places, they'd provide food. Sometimes they'd provide clothes. They'd even provide help with utilities. And for many days, that made quite a significant difference in whether I was going to have a place to sleep at that night or something to eat that week as a child. You know, I want you to think about that. That was my life for probably about, because my mother moved out when I was like 14 or 15. Yeah, she just moved out. I came home from school. Her stuff was packed. She was gone. I was just like, oh. So I just walked the streets for a few days and nights. Found some friends, hung out with them. It was fun. Um, but every time we needed help, it was the church that she'd take me to. I want you to imagine what a world would look like if every time we needed help, it was a secular organization that had no religious ideology, no religious requirement. Imagine what it does to the mind of a young man who is living in poverty and homelessness, and the helping hand is always the Christian hand. It creates a correlation between what help is and what God is, you know? And it becomes, these people are in position to help because they're Christians, you know? And it definitely helps to drive that thought that Christians are good people, you know? And let's be honest. I'm not saying Christians are bad people. Some are, yeah, maybe a little bit more than some. But for me, as someone who definitely wanted to make a difference, that was the option. Who do I see making a difference? I see Christians making a difference as far as in the community. Now, obviously, atheists are making differences everywhere. But of course, especially the atheists in the Black community, have been Christ washed. So now every Black leader is from our past is automatically assumed to be a Christian when many of them were not. Actually, most of them, like I'd say Booker T. Washington was a Christian in name only. You know, most of them had very, very strong critiques against not only the church, but the theology of the church and the God of the church, especially Frederick Douglass, you know. Um, but the point here is that it's that stuff that's concretizing people's commitment to Christ, you know? Because even for me, remember, as a child, I thought it was bullshit. But I wonder, looking back, like seeing the Christians actually helping people, seeing them being able to help people, you know, it just reinforces that idea. And I'm like, that's an opportunity that we have, you know? Churches often provide essential life-saving services, but that assistance can be overshadowed when spiritual conversion is effectively wielded as a prerequisite for aid. We can recognize the good that many faith-based institutions do while simultaneously critiquing the practice of tying religious adherence to critical social services. The secular community, in this regard, has a chance to step in to the breach, ensuring that no one must trade personal convictions for basic human needs. By organizing robust, well-funded, and compassionate programs, secular groups can become an ever-present alternative and a safeguard, you know, to the principle that mercy and support should never come at the cost of one's autonomy or dignity. In doing so, we can build a more just society, one in which help is given freely, empathy trumps dogma, and the common good guides us all. So I hope I've said something today that has your mind thinking, has you thinking on some things, because this is the work. And every day I am more and more and more excited about the possibilities that lie ahead of us. All right. So thank you for watching me today. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell, consider joining, supporting, or connecting with this community channel or content in any way that makes sense to you. Share this video with somebody and make a difference in their lives. And of course, check out our merch. We have hoodies, we have t-shirts, we have stickers, we now have hats. Yeah, because y'all know I'm a hat guy. Man, we got a little bit of everything, stickers, and then we have books as well. Go check out those books on Amazon or wherever books are sold. You just type my name, Darante LaMar, in Google and follow the breadcrumbs. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. Until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and if you can, stay beautiful. I'll holler at you.